Hi, PD Mangan here. Today I want to talk about why a plant-based diet is not the answer for health. Now, you've probably heard a lot about plant-based diets. Everyone, well, it's pretty mainstream now. Lots of doctors say plant-based is the way to go. There's some vegan doctors out there who specialize in talking about this. So, I'm going to tell you why plant-based diets are not the answer for health, despite what everyone is saying. Now, first of all, the term plant-based is incredibly vague. What does that mean? If I eat, let's say, 49% of my food as animal foods, meat, dairy, eggs, and fish, and I eat the other 51% of my calories as plants, does that mean that I'm eating a plant-based diet? The ordinary rules of language would seem to mean that that does mean that I'm eating a plant-based diet. I eat plants, not all that many, but I do eat plants, and most people do eat plants, other than pure carnivores who must be well under 1% of the population. Everyone eats plants. So what's plant-based? Also, if you're eating most of your food by weight as plants, does that count? Lots of foods like broccoli and cauliflower have very low caloric density, so you could eat a whole lot of them by weight and still not be getting most of your calories from plants. Is that plant-based? A head of cabbage has 112 calories. You could eat several of them a day, and you still wouldn't be eating a majority of your calories from plants. So the term plant-based is ill-defined, and the people who use it never define it, and it's really not a useful term at all. And so I think that most of these people who are using the term plant-based are using it as a euphemism for either vegan or vegetarian, because they know it would be significantly less popular if they use those terms. If they suggested that people get healthier by going on a vegan diet, a lot of people are going to tune out immediately. So they use the term plant-based. Extremely vague. Now, what about the claims that a plant-based diet improves health, prevents chronic disease such as heart disease or cancer? I believe that some of these claims are correct, but what we're going to examine in this video is why they may be correct. Now, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who is a prominent vegan doctor, along with a couple of others, Michael Greger, John McDougall, Dean Ornish, they all make these claims about a plant-based diet. The thing is that the studies they cite in support of their arguments did a lot of things. So, for example, the diet that Dean Ornish had several men go through, and they apparently became healthier. They reversed some of their heart disease. But Dr. Ornish's plan did a number of things. Besides a low-fat vegetarian diet, which he prescribed, they also did smoking cessation, they did exercise, they had an exercise program as part of it, and they had stress management. So who's to say what exactly happened with these men? Was it more exercise? Was it less stress? If quitting smoking? Maybe smoking is a huge risk for heart disease. So we can't say from Dr. Ornish's program that the low-fat vegetarian diet was the crucial part of, or any part for that matter, of what made these people better. Another study that Dr. Esselstyn likes to cite, and I think this is very interesting myself, is what happened in Norway during World War II. So in Norway, during World War II, death rates from circulatory diseases, mainly heart disease, coronary artery disease, and stroke, declined dramatically. So what happened exactly? Norway was occupied by the enemy, the Germans, and they were deprived of a lot of the things they were used to. Now, there have been some studies written about this, and these are often cited by advocates of plant-based nutrition, so-called, as support for their view. The idea is that livestock was confiscated by the occupying forces, and the Norwegians had to do with a lot more plant foods and less meat and dairy products and eggs and so forth. But the problem is a lot of things in Norway changed during the war. For instance, tobacco was very scarce during World War II and was rationed, so the Norwegians undoubtedly smoked a lot less. Another thing was a lot of Norwegians, to make up for the relative lack of animal foods, did more fishing. So they started eating more fish, and fish has been shown via its omega-3 fatty acids to lessen the rate of coronary artery disease, to lessen deaths from coronary artery disease. Another thing, gasoline rationing. So they had to walk everywhere, so they had more exercise. Maybe there just wasn't enough food in general and they lost weight. Calorie restriction is known to be a good preventative of chronic disease. So a lot of things changed, and another thing is they did not have access to oils and margarine. The consumption went way down. These things are industrial products. They are plant-based. They are made from plants, and they are implicated in chronic disease, including coronary artery disease. So they ate less oils, less fats of these bad industrial fats made from plants. So the decline in coronary artery disease and other circulatory diseases in Norway may have had absolutely nothing to do with eating less animal products. And then finally, another one they like to cite is the story of Finland. Finland at one time was the heart disease capital of the world, and it is no longer. They decreased their rate of heart disease by 80%. So how did they do that? Well, they didn't do it by going on a plant-based diet. They did it by counseling people to quit smoking and by controlling blood pressure. So these studies that they cite, and there are many more. For instance, a reanalysis of the Sydney Diet Heart Study and the Minnesota Coronary Experiment that have been published in the last couple of years have found that replacing saturated fat with vegetable oils actually raised the death rate. This was a reanalysis. Nobody knew that at the time, or I don't know, the researchers were covering it up, something. But this has been found. So if you decrease saturated fat and replace it with vegetable oils, you got a higher risk of death. So none of these things support the idea that a plant-based diet is important or crucial or even necessary. So what is behind a plant-based diet if, for the sake of argument, we can see that it has some successes? And I always point out that vegetable oils and sugar and refined carbohydrates, which I call the processed food trifecta, are really implicated in chronic disease, and they are all plant foods. They are not animal foods. If you get rid of those, you'll have a much lower risk of chronic disease. So when I point this out, people say, well, they're talking about whole food, unprocessed plant food. So there's your answer right there. It's not that people switch from eating mostly animal foods to mostly plant, whatever mostly is and whatever plant-based is. It's that if you go on a whole foods, plant-based diet, you are not going to be eating any processed food. You're not going to be eating seed oils, that is vegetable oils, sugar, or refined carbohydrates, mainly flour and that sort of thing. And you're not going to be eating donuts, pizza, you're not going to be drinking Coca-Cola, So basically all the garbage is gone out of your diet, and to my mind, that is what is going on there with this idea that plant-based diets, whole food plant-based diets, are better for health. It doesn't have to do with plant-based. If you eat a whole food animal-based diet, whatever percentages of the diet are animal foods, I'm not really sure what that means. Just like with plant-based, it's all very vague. But as long as you get rid of the processed junk foods, that's what really matters. And so they have a point that if you eat a whole food, unprocessed plant food diet, you'll get better, or you'll prevent chronic disease. But it isn't because of the plant food. It's because it's minimally processed food, not the ultra-processed junk that contains seed oil, sugar, and refined carbohydrates that so many people eat every day. A majority of the food in this country is ultra-processed food, and that's what's causing the disease. I wrote an article about this for my website, and I'll link it below, and thanks for watching and listening.